Hey there, Suzi here. If your business is working, but it still feels like everything runs through you, I want to invite you to something new that I'm hosting. It's called The Leaders Table, and it isn't a masterclass or a typical training. It's actually a 6-part online series for women business owners who are ready to lead differently. Because there comes a point in your business where you stop asking, what do I do next? And you start asking, how do I want to lead this business? Now, every month from May till October, we'll tackle the real specific challenges that come with leading a business with a team. Things like decision making and getting buy-in, not being the bottleneck anymore. It's going to be practical, focused, and a different kind of room, one where you can actually think, reflect, and make better decisions. If that sounds like what you need right now, you can learn more at herbusiness.com/leaders table. That's herbusiness.com/leaders table. I'd love to see you there. Hey there, welcome to the Her Business podcast, where every week we release an episode to help you grow your business by your rules and no one else's. I'm Suzi Dafnis, I'm the CEO at Her Business, and I am your host. Now, a few weeks ago, I went to Mexico, and it wasn't a work trip or a conference, but it was a retreat with a mastermind that I'm a part of. And I went right in the middle of some pretty big projects happening at Her Business, with a team busy, parts moving, things happening. And as I was packing my suitcase, running around like a headless chook, getting ready for the flight, trying to set my intentions for what I wanted the week to be, a thought popped into my head, uninvited. The thought was, is this the right time? Who was I to think that I could just hop on a plane, take a week away? Was that even acceptable for me to do? And here's what I eventually told myself. It is never the right time. As a business owner, you will always be busy. You will always have people to lead. You will always have projects and deadlines and new ideas that come up. But if we only allow ourselves space when things are quiet, that means we've built a business that only allows freedom when we're not working. And that's not the kind of business that I've built, and I bet it's not the kind of business that you want to be building either. So I got on that plane. And what happened and what I came back with is what I want to share with you today. Because today's episode is about something I think sits underneath so much about what we talk about here on the show and inside of Her Business. And that's the gap between having freedom and actually living it. Most of the women I know started their business for freedom, some sort of freedom. And many of them get it or have gotten it. Financial freedom, logistical freedom, location freedom. On paper, they have freedom. But somewhere along the road, without noticing it, they stopped claiming it. So today we're talking about why that happens, what it costs you, and what it actually looks like to reclaim it. Whether you have a full team behind you or you're still doing most of the things yourself. So let's start by naming something I think most of us are too close to in our work to see clearly. The behaviors that created your success are not the same ones that will sustain your freedom. In the early days of business, and days is years, hustle is rewarded, right? Responsiveness is rewarded. Being always on, always across everything, always available, that's what works, that's what makes your business work. And so we do it. And it works, and we keep doing it. But then something subtle happens. Those behaviors become part of our identity. We start to believe this is just what it takes. This is who I am as a business owner. This is what running a business looks like. And even when the circumstances change, even when the team is capable and the systems are solid and the business genuinely does not need you in every detail, we don't change. So freedom isn't taken away, it's not claimed. We forget that we have a choice every single day, that we actually get to do what we want, how we want, when we want, because we've been so busy reinforcing the old story that business ownership means sacrifice, means always being on, means putting everything else second, that we stopped questioning it. And the tragic thing about that is that that story was never really true. It was just the only model most of us have ever seen. We learn to believe that responding means being responsible to our team, to our clients. But that is so far from the truth. Responding to things and being responsible are not synonymous. Responsibility is taking full ownership of outcomes, which is something you can absolutely do without responding to everything. I'm going to say that one again. Responsibility is taking full ownership of outcomes, which is something that you can absolutely do without responding to everything. Most of us have collapsed those things together. We think, if I'm across everything, nothing's going to fall through the cracks. If I'm always responding, I'm right there at the end of the phone, at the end of the Slack channel, at the end of the email. I'm not going to let anyone down. And that's safe, right? Because there's a sense of control in that. Nothing will go wrong as long as I've got eyes on everything. But that also keeps you in a constant state of reaction. Respond, fix, move on. Respond, fix, move on. Repeat again and again and again until over time that becomes your baseline. And it stops feeling like a choice you've made, and it starts feeling like, well, that's just the way things are. Now, responsibility can exist without that responsiveness, that state of always being on. You can be responsible for the outcomes by ensuring that the systems, the communication, the team culture, the way your business runs has the integrity to operate without you. Not micromanaging every moving part, not being the person everyone comes to for every decision. You can build something solid enough that you can step back when you need to and deserve to and trust that it's going to hold. The structure is going to hold. That is true leadership. That is how we get real freedom. So, back to Mexico, shall we? Now, I could tell you that the story went like this. I left, everything was fine, I came back refreshed, the end. But there's a lot more to it than that, which I'm sure you know whenever you leave your business to babysit itself. There were moments, especially in the first few days, when I really wanted to check in. And it wasn't because I thought something was wrong or something wasn't handled. I realized that I wanted to check in to feel like I was contributing, to let the team know I'm still here, I'm still, right next to you. Isn't that crazy? But I bet you felt the same. We just don't talk about it. I felt that pull to insert myself, to be useful, to be needed. And so I had to sit with that for a while without acting on it. Because why do we, the women who built the business, who did the whole damn thing, who have worked for years, decades on this, why do we feel like we still have to prove ourselves? Prove our usefulness. Prove that we are indispensable as a cog in the machine of our own business. Wasn't the whole reason for building your business to get freedom? Didn't you daydream about when the time would come for you to step back a little bit and watch as the system you've built worked on its own? When you could step into a position of leadership rather than doing it all day, every day? Here's what's going on with this thought process. When you build your identity around being the person who holds everything together, the moment you stop holding it all together intentionally, you can feel like you're losing yourself a little bit. Who am I if I'm not needed? Who am I without overworking myself? Who am I when I'm not the one holding everything? Freedom can be pretty uncomfortable for us. When that weight is removed from our shoulders, we look around, wondering why we feel lighter, why our appointment book isn't full, why our calendar isn't bursting, and pick up something else instead of stretching our shoulders and relishing the lightness, the space. That's what I tried to do during my week away. I intentionally chose not to pick up the weight again and simply see what it felt like to let someone else pick it up. And guess what? I started to relax into my ability to trust. I trust my team. I trust my systems. I trust our plans. I trust the version of me who built something, who slaved away for years. And in doing that, I began to trust the version of me that cherishes space and time and creativity, whose mind is able to wander and wonder. On the other side of that process, I discovered was actually presence, real space, real centeredness, homecoming, the kind of clarity you simply can't get when you're close in all the details. When we're in it, everything feels urgent, everything feels important. And when you step out, when you really step out, you start to see what actually matters, what can wait, and what honestly doesn't need you at all. That freedom doesn't have to come from a trip to the other side of the world. Freedom can become part of our daily life, even when we do need to spend hours in the office. It can be going for a walk in the middle of the afternoon, or deciding to go see your mum for lunch, deciding on the day spontaneously that you're going to do that. These are moments that seem small, but they're actually massive. They're the moments where you stop asking, do I have permission? From your clients, from your calendar, from your team, from the old version of you who believed that being busy was the same as being valuable, and you start deciding, actually, this moment matters to me. I matter, and I have built my business to support these moments. That's when you stop being successful on paper. That's when freedom stops being something you technically have and becomes something very real. It's when you start inhabiting the choice that you actually have. And I think that for so many, that shift is the hardest work ahead of them. Marketing strategies, no problem. Got those. Hiring a team, yep, I can do that. Designing your next offer, piece of cake. But trusting yourself to actually claim what you've built, to rule what you own, that is freaking hard. And I'm not just speaking to the women with teams here. Maybe you're listening right now and you're saying, Suzi, I'm not as far in on the journey. I don't have a team. I really am required to do most of the work here. You don't get out of this. Sorry. The work of choosing freedom matters to all of us. It matters to you because you are actively creating the systems and structures in your business that will help future you be more free. And yes, freedom looks different at different stages, but that doesn't mean it's unavailable if you are in a growth period or you are like under it all right now. And it's not about disappearing for a week. It's about interrupting the belief that you have to be on all the time. Maybe for you that means not answering messages immediately. Maybe it means structuring your week with intentional white space. Maybe that means designing your offers so they don't rely on your constant availability. Maybe it's building your team so that you are not the one doing all the things, especially the things that are not really designed for your altitude as a leader. The key shift is stop building a business that only works if you're constantly working. Okay, stop building a business that only works if you're constantly working. Even at the earliest stages, you're setting the tone for what this business becomes. The habits you build now around availability and responsiveness and how you value your own time, those become the culture of your business. So please set them intentionally. And I want to spend a moment on something that I think underlies all of this stuff that I'm talking about. Most of us have internalized someone else's rules about what it means to be a business owner. Hard work must come at a cost. Success requires sacrifice. Being serious about business means constantly being busy. These aren't truths. These are stories we inherited. These are stories we have absorbed from watching other people run businesses, but we need to question them because once you start questioning them, you realize this. You're allowed to have a business that supports your life, not one that your life has to fit around. And unlearning this isn't necessarily about doing something new, but it's about noticing where you're still following rules that you never consciously chose. So I want to give you something to do this week. If you find yourself in reactive mode, carrying everything, responding to everything, feeling like you have zero white space, I'd start with any one of these three things. 1, delay your response time by an hour. Let the messages and emails rest in your inbox for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours before you get back to them. Protect your time. Number 2, block out 2 hours of not negotiable white space for yourself this week. Treat it like a priority and respect that time like you would respect a meeting with a client or with your team. And give yourself 2 hours of white space to do whatever the heck you want. Number 3, say the word no or not now to something that is not essential right now. This might be to your team. It could be to yourself. You don't have to get every single thing on your list done if it doesn't have a clear benefit. And notice what happens when you do any one or all three of these things, because it's going to be uncomfortable. You might feel that weight off your shoulders and the urge to fill that space, to pick up something else, but try to sit with it. Sit with that lightness. Freedom is not a switch that you flip. One day I am free. It's not an I'll be free when. It's something you choose to practice, to do over and over, even though it might feel foreign right now. In small amounts and in big ones. Practice freedom. On ordinary Tuesdays, in Mexico, everywhere in between. You've built your business for freedom, but are you living it? Because you can, not just when things quiet down, not when the team is bigger or when the kids are out of school or when revenue is higher or when timing is better. Now, because the timing is never perfect. The projects will never all be done. There will always be a reason to wait, but waiting has a cost. And I want to end this episode by answering the question that I ask all my guests at the end of interviews right here on the show. If you're a regular listener, you'll know this. Because I recently realized that I asked the question, what does your business, your rules mean, to every guest on the show, time and time again. And I've been doing that probably for about 6 months. But I've never actually personally answered that question here on the podcast for you. So I want to do that today, and I want you to answer that question for yourself. What does your business, your rules mean for you? Now, before I give you my response, last week I was in a room of women business owners. These are women who are taking part in our high-level mastermind, which is called the Boardroom. And a number of times throughout the day, they reinforced each other's decisions to do something differently, to step out of the box, to make a hard decision by saying the words to each other, it's your business, your rules. And I tell you, I was grinning so big. My smile was all over my face because these women had adopted this gorgeous mantra from the show here, it's her business mantra, as part of their daily life. And I hope that you will too. So back to what does your business, your rules mean for me? So right now, running my business by my rules looks like spaciousness without the guilt. It looks like making decisions based on what I value, what's important to me, not just what's efficient. It looks like trusting that I don't have to be in everything all the time at work. And most importantly, my business, my rules means remembering that freedom isn't something I earn later. It's something I get to choose every day, even in the middle of projects, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels unfamiliar, especially then, actually. So what does my business, my rules look like to you? Are you actively living by those rules or someone else's voice in your head? I would love to know the answer to that question, either over on Instagram. You can direct message me at @herbusiness on Instagram, or in a review of this podcast episode. I would love it. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd be willing to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen, you can even write to us at podcast@herbusiness.com. I cannot wait to hear your answer. What does your business, your rules mean? And if you know a business owner in your life who might need to hear this episode, please share it with them today. It might have her living by her rules too. It might her feeling more freedom. On our website at herbusiness.com/361, you're going to find a summary of today's episode and links to any resources that I've mentioned. And if you are new to the show, thank you for being here. Please hit subscribe or follow wherever you are listening. And join me on the next episode. We have such great topics coming up. I love to hear from you that we are on the mark with what you need to be hearing. So please reach out and join us on the next episode for more inspiring stories and lessons from female entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next week right here on the Her Business Podcast. Bye for now.